So we're going to give her a very warm introduction, Neiman Marcus style. We're so elated and excited that you're here, Dr. Davis. We're just going to have everybody to come in, grab a little food, hold on to your hats, and be amazed. So Ms. Noemi is going to give us a great introduction to Dr. Davis, and then we're going to proceed with our presentation.
Good morning, everyone.
Happy Thursday. So we're just so excited to introduce our guest speaker today, Dr. Ester Davis. She is a Texas designer who created the Polished Image and DOTY, which is Designer of the Year Award. She's also the host and producer for the Ester Davis Show, an American signature since 1988 with podcasts in 10 countries. She is a speaker, author, scripter, and coach, and the list goes on.
Yes, and on and on.
So let's just please welcome Dr. Ester Davis, who is accompanied by CEO of DFW BAA, C.W. Whitaker.
Thank you. I know it's early. You got to give me a better applause. I'm delighted to be here. It is a joy to come to Neiman Marcus at any time. I know your founder. I have some accolades from some of the community about him and how he did his brand, how he celebrated the brand to all cultures in Texas. I met Mr. Marcus. I met him twice. He opened a museum downtown. At the time, I was working for Time Warner. You want me to stand still, don't you? At the time, I was working for Time Warner. And when he opened, Time Warner asked that we get an interview with him. Well, I knew some of the employees. I knew the models. So we got the interview. The funniest thing that happened at the interview was we're walking through the museum, and he's telling me where everything came from. So finally, we get down to, I want to know more about you. I mean, what do you do in your off time? He and his wife travel the world, as you well know. So finally, my question was, well, do you sing in the shower? and he says, what? I said, a shower. Do you sing? Even though he was a medium-built man. And he said, you know, nobody's ever asked me that question before. He says, I do sing. I said, well, I'm just wondering what type of music you. And we chatted for the next, and of course, I only had about 15 or 20 minutes with him. But he was wonderful. I need to start this, since we're talking about African Americans and Neiman Marcus. Hello. How are you? Wow. Shrita, you didn't tell me that I knew we were going to have a group here.
Oh, yes.
The first thing I want to do is present to Serena. I write a column for 12 papers across the South. I brought my friend here with me, who's my traveling buddy. We have traveled to Korea. We have traveled, where else did we go?
Costa Rica?
Yeah, we went to Costa Rica, and I have some of the memorabilia back there. I got carried away. I wasn't going to bring anything but my mouth. And then last night I decided I'm going to pick up a couple other things. So I want to present to Serena. This is a column I did, Black History Still Standing. It is of the Congresswoman who just retired, former U.S. Congress member, Lady Eddie Bernice Johnson, with one of her business managers from a union. I wrote the story because she retired from Congress after 34 years. And one of her supporters was Mr. Stanley Marcus. Mr. Marcus actually entertained African Americans and Latinos at your downtown location. I started my modeling career at Neiman's in, what's the room, the fancy, wonderful room up on the top floor? Zodiac. So, the Zodiac. I was never tall enough for high fashion modeling, but I was perfect for petite modeling, tea modeling, that part of the business. And we had a lot of fun. But he was always present in our communities, which is very, very important. So I have a couple of accolades On the back is a wedding gown picture from a lady, from a lady named Maxine Cash. The story about Maxine Cash, you want to dig that up for me? The gown is lovely. The year is 1951. 1951, African American women could not try on clothes in the top retail stores anywhere in the United States. But Maxine Cash was a school teacher. Her mother-in-law was a maid, and I'm going to find that picture because I want you to see how lovely. Oh, you're great. How lovely the gown is. But let me get to the story. So the maid and one of the salespeople at Neiman Marcus got together about this wedding. She ended up getting the gown, but she had to have the gown delivered to her home. And Neiman's did that. They ordered a size 12 wedding gown with this beautiful, beautiful tray. But Maxine was a size 14. No, they solved the problem. She told me that she was going to lose weight anyway. So she lost weight to get into the dress that was sent to her house. The second story that I wanted to share with you, and that's Maxine Cash. She is still living. I went to her house to pick up the wedding gown. That is it.
Oh, wow.
And all of these pictures can be passed around because I didn't want them, but that's the wedding gown. And she still looks a lot like that today. She is 86 years old. And of course, when you go to the house of an 86-year-old, do not expect to just walk in and leave. So I had to spend some time with her. The second person that sent greetings is a lady named Barbara Steele. Barbara Steele visited with Mr. Marcus. He entertained her, that's her word. He entertained her at the Zodiac Room. Barbara is one of those people that's belonged everything. She's one of the high society women. She was president, national president of a national bar and bench spouses. That's a lawyer group. Those would be, at that time, all of the black lawyers, all of the black spouses that he entertained. So he was always in our community. If you take the downtown store, it's only about 5 miles from South Dallas, from the Martin Luther King Center. It's the Fair Park. So everybody knows about the brand of Neiman Marcus. But most important is the branding and your founder that found his way there on a regular basis. I know some of your employees. There's a lady named Penny Petrie. If you ever get a chance to go to Skyline Ranch, she's now at Skyline Ranch. She worked in your cosmetic department for 14 years. Here's the beauty about that. All of the black women went down to the downtown store and asked for Penny. Yeah, that's the way you did business. You remember her? Oh my God.
No, but I'm following the story very well. Yes.
And that's the way that you brand anything. All of the school teachers, again, the downtown store is only about 5 miles from everything else. That's 4 high schools, 40 churches. So they all came down to Neiman's. Mr. Marcus had a habit of coming to meet some of them, or knowing a lot of them. Penny said to say hello to all of you. She missed you. She missed her customers. Nicole Smith is a salon operator. I did not know this, but her dad, who was the doorman at Fairmont Hotel, bought cologne, Cartier cologne, and he was a doorman at the Fairmont Hotel. The good thing about what you're doing, I think, is makes us feel good. I want to share as much as I can, but I also want to answer any of your questions. In my race, we all learned to sew. I was born in 1944. In high school, I had a class called Home Economics.
Oh, yeah.
I was taught to sew, put in hems, and I remember making an umbrella one year for a fashion show. I am also a musician, bless my soul. I had one of those mothers that made you practice the piano. So my gowns were made by women in my community. And they looked fabulous because we couldn't shop in the stores. If you could go in the stores, you could not try the clothes on. But that didn't deter people with fashion. It really didn't. Because you had a magazine out, right? So all we did was look in the magazine and get ideas on how we wanted things to look. But my life was in an integrated school, Booker T. Washington High School, Conroe, Texas. I went to school and I started modeling as a kid. I was raised as a pretty little girl. You know, that's how we were raised. And by the way, those photos, you can spread them around. I just put them loosely so everybody could touch them. I left in the civil rights movement. Now, I grew up in a very, let's say, educational time. Laura and I talk about this all the time. I went to Texas Southern. From Texas Southern to Paul Quinn. For Paul Quinn, there was an ad in the paper about hiring black models in Dallas, Texas. So I came to Dallas, and I got work. Again, I wasn't tall enough for the good stuff, but we had a lot of fun. My career was at the Eastman Kodak Company between Dallas, Burbank, and Rochester, New York. Outstanding career. I did modeling for Kodak, and we did all of the movies, y'all. All of the Western movies in the 70s and the 80s. I can remember The Lone Ranger. And it's still on television today. I mean, The Lone Ranger's there. Now you have African Americans and Latinos, blacks and browns coming into the workforce, and they were in the movie industry, behind the scenes. I was a scriptwriter. I went to work for Pat Summerall. Oh wow, that was an experience because his sports career was basically over. He started a company in Richardson, Texas called Pat Summerall Productions. And he did sports, but he also did shows for the Discovery Channel before it was really the Discovery Channel. So I went to work for it. And we wrote scripts. We did. Anybody worked in the movie business? Nobody? Okay. It's a headache because you get paper every day. And you go through those scripts to see which ones they're going to use. Pat was very good with the educational people, and this is the beginning of CNN. I'm talking now probably the 70s. So that's basically my career, and I've been in it ever since. I did a boatload of pageants. So in the booklets, you're going to see all of the pageants. Miss Black Texas. I directed the Miss Black Dallas pageants, and then we went from there to the national scene. I got tired of traveling. I got a lot of miles. I still got miles, believe it or not. I want to give you just a little bit more history about African American women. I was married for a number of years. My husband came out of the Korean War. He was from Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lot of you may know the story of Tulsa and oil boom. And he tells the story, I told the story to our children, that he stayed in a hotel in Tulsa. But at that time, that was acceptable because all of the hotels were owned by African Americans. Coming out of the war, going to Tulsa to work. He was a chauffeur for the Phillips family. One of his favorite stories to our children, I have two sons, was he would drive Miss Phillips down to Dallas every year for a fortnight, fortnight. He would drive her down to shop at Neiman Marcus. The whole world shops at Neiman Marcus. I bought a coat with me. I want you to help me with this coat, and then I'll take questions. This coat has been in my family. We calculated 51 years. It's a hand-me-down from my 91-year-old auntie. So the point is, I want to know what these buttons are. And the buttons on this coat, I don't know what they are. The coat is fabulous.
Fabulous.
I'm not sure if it's Sackowitz or Neiman's, but it's one of those two stores. My cousin, Nancy, had it. She owned bars and clubs down by the riverfront. You know where it is. And she bought fur coats and diamond rings and shoes, and she gave it to my 93-year-old aunt who's living now. So this past Christmas, that was my Christmas present. But what are the buttons? So I thought I was coming to the place of expertise,
Absolutely.
and you would tell me what it was. These conversations are never any good unless you ask me questions. I can talk all day, I can assure you. At the moment, I'm hosting a podcast with this guy and the Good News Network out of Los Angeles. I write columns for about 12 papers. I don't get up early. So this is really early for us. The pictures, I have to bring up a couple of things about the pictures. For those of you that are looking at them, I have a complete library of the Tuskegee Airmen. One of the photos somewhere is a Tuskegee Airman maintenance woman. Is that circulating some? Here it is. I hadn't planned to bring that. But the Tuskegee Airmen, as you all know, the men make history. But behind the scene, there were women working on planes. That's one of the pictures. What I want to share with you most expressly is that they had no uniforms for women. So they had to make their own uniforms or adjust them or alter them. So that uniform, she didn't want to wear pants, so she made herself a skirt. So that's from the Tuskegee. We're talking, what, 1942? Help me out here. World War II.
44.
I'm sorry?
44.
44. This is a class of 42. These are aviation cadets. But just keep in mind that behind all of the airplanes, the maintenance was done by the women. On the very back there, I had to bring that photograph. I had to bring it. That is a photograph of twins at Fair Park. Thank you. Fair Park had a Negro Day. These young ladies, and I knew one of them, they were an identical set of twins. Their mother made this outfit for both of them. So we dressed up to go to the fair on the one day that was given to African Americans. That, of course, you know, that has all ended. I did a total collection on the Tuskegee Airmen and the women and their clothing. And why did we dress up to go to the fair? What year is that, please? It's somewhere. 19, not 28. 48? 1948. And they made the handkerchiefs and everything, Laura. Can you believe that? On the table is one of my favorite photos on the back. It says, preserving the fashionable image, creative style, class, and proud heritage of African Americans since 1990. I come from a family of fashionistas. So they made fabrics and ornaments and flowers and ornaments out of everything. This picture, the lady that, this is 1948. 1948. The lady in white is the bride. She was announcing her engagement to a Dr. Jordan. She recently passed away. Her name was Julia Jordan. Julia actually took my memorabilia, put it in Washington, D.C. So we're actually in one of the Smithsonians. But look at how great those women look. I've got about 15 more minutes. I'll take questions. Anything you ever want to know about, about black women or your brand. Your brand, I think, is one of the most outstanding in this country. Because Dallas has, for the Super Bowl of 2010, I represented our mayor. I learned a lot in that little exercise. Laura and I talked about that. We have 30,000 rooms in 2010 when the Super Bowl came. The mayor at that time was, no, not Ron Kirk, but I'll think of his name in a minute. But the point is, all of the people and the groups that came in wanted to go to the store because they were downtown. Jerry's World has the stadium, where we had the hotel rooms. So Dallas got ready for this Super Bowl for 3 years when it was announced. All of the activity was downtown Dallas and out at the stadium, between the two. But the women came to Neiman's. Yes, sir.
Obviously, my name is Jean-Patrick Bonny, and I've been with Neiman for 13 years. I am from the first, freed, black nations in the world, because in 1804, Haiti was the first, free nation in the world. Mm-hmm. And we, made the path for a lot of other black people to, look towards freedom. My mother, as in your lineage also, was in the fashion business, because that's where I learned all of my fashion, tips. I made my first suit when I was 12 years old. The question that I have is, why is it that we see such a decline in the dress code of, I don't go by African American, but the black people in America? Why is that? Because I look at this picture, and I see the lineage, and I see the beautiful things, and I see, pictures of my people in Haiti, and the way they were dressed, and today I see a huge decline. And because this is, Black History Month, I'm simply addressing the black in America and why.
Well, you could just open up a big anthill here. Because evidently, we're at a football game between the championship at Saco Cliff and, oh, come on, talk to me. Okay, Saco Cliff and what other white schools? We had 4 championship high school teams this year. I'm answering your question. The issue now is that at these 2 games, there was some name calling of the team that won. Typical stuff. Now the controversy in my community that I'm dealing with at this moment is, what can DISD do about the name calling? You can't do a thing about it. This is my opinion. I'm very opinionated. Because the hip-hoppers have changed our culture, whether you like it or not. And we have all of these tools called internet, and all of that has been an influence into our children. And we have allowed it into our homes, into our classrooms, into our churches. My next article is going to be why churches closing. But we are trying to get a handle on, and they are going to meet with DISD. DISD is Dallas Independent School District. If in the beginning of the hip-hop age, in the beginning of social media, there were people that didn't like it, didn't want it in the school systems, did not want to do A, B, C, and D. But it made it in. Now we're there, sir, and we got a tiger by the table. That's my opinion, because I'm going to dress like this. And I do this every day. I got to get out of heels pretty soon. I don't know who said that, but I don't agree with that at all. Because we have to keep this thing rolling. That's why I'm so delighted to be here. Because you're still Neiman Marcus. You have not bowed down to this crap. And give yourself a hand, because that is outstanding. And I said, it's so funny. I've said some things that I probably should have said, but they always invite me back. So, but that's why we have had a decline. You fall into what the internet says. You fall into what the hip hopper says. And you and I don't listen to that music. I know the rappers because I have 5 grandsons, so I know all about that. But they can't wear the baggy pants in my house. I got a lot of rules. And that's what I think is going to happen now. The decline is not in all areas. As we travel around the country, we see some other, what you're talking about. We see the well-dressed African-American male. If you go to a Mavericks game, that's an eye-opener. Don't go to a football game in South Dallas and expect everything to be dressed like you are today. It's not going to happen. You can go to Cedar Hill, 4,000 students at Cedar Hill High School. I took one of the generals over there a couple of years ago. He was amazed. Go to the charter schools, you see a difference. I'm a little intrigued because I go to my grandson's, he's graduating from somewhere. Graduating from the Air Force, Lackland Air Force Base. We know everything's going to be really cool on that base. There won't be any of the shenanigans that you're talking about. But it's not in all pockets of the country. What can we do about it? We can stand our ground. And there has been a decline, and I don't know how we're going to get out of it. But I will talk to some other people and see what they're going to do about it.
Is it a lack of role model from that standpoint that we need in the black community?
Of course it is. You don't have fathers in the homes. What is your name again?
I go by JP.
G? Okay. Yeah, you have, my dad was in, my dad and mother were married 55 years. We wore hot pants in the 60s. I wore hot pants. and I didn't do well with the afro thing because I had too much hair. But there was a dress code in the house. And this is in black homes. So the dress code sort of dictated what we did outside. So now what we're running into in our neighborhoods is trying to replenish some of that loss. Does that help you out a little bit?
Sure.
And I'm available because I can invite you to all of this. If they want to have these discussions, they can have them. But we're going to have to do better. I hate that word, but we're going to have to set the example also. Okay, any other questions? I know my time. How much time do I have?
Good.
I try to make sure I cover all of the things that I want to cover. 10 minutes.
So, Ms. Dr. Esther Davis, you have a long, extensive list of accolades. What is one thing that stands out the most? And let me tell you guys, Tim and I saw her accolades. There's no time to even go through them. But I just want to know one thing that stands out in everything that you did.
One thing that stands out is the United States Post Office has heritage stamps. We have done 4 of those heritage stamps. The most amazing one was Lena Horne and Ray Charles. And the way that works, I think I have a picture of it. The stamps are issued, they hit every city, and then the city and the postmaster in that city has an opening. The Lena Horne stamp sold 4 pallets of stamps when it was introduced. Ray Charles, we had to put it into a 2-day program. I did establish a dress code with the Ray Charles stamp because he established a dress code for his band. Did you know that? They could not show up at rehearsal in blue jeans and whatever was the dress of that day. They had to be dressed for rehearsal. We did the opening for the Madam C.J. Walker stamp. That was done at City Hall, yes. So that's probably, because we can all relate to those characters. Lena Horne, they introduced a lot of her verbiage. She was married to a white man, and they gave some of her answers why she wasn't married to a man of color. They published her responses to that. Pearl Bailey doesn't have a stamp yet, and I think there's a stamp coming on one of the other entertainers. So we did 4 of those. That has to be, I mean, that's fabulous because all of their friends come in. Believe it or not, the ones that were still living for Lena Horne actually came to Dallas for the opening of the stamp. Absolutely amazing. Madam C.J. Walker, do you know the story of Madam C.J. Walker? They call her Madam C.J. Walker. She was a beautician. I'm sorry? She did hair care product. No, honey, that was only one hair care product. We're talking 1930s. She invented the iron for black hair. How come? And then she sold it and trained other beauticians. Before she died, she had about 10,000 beauticians around the country that were straightening our hair, as we called it at that time. And she donated, became a millionaire, probably the first African-American woman millionaire. And then she gave her proceeds to the NAACP. Look that up. That's a fabulous story. When I was modeling in the 60s, like 66, 67, 68, the industry didn't know what to do with our hair. I mean, it was heavy. It was mountainous nappy, all over the face, hair. Let me tell you what happened. How did you solve the problem? What do you think they did? We bought in Neiman's, Sakowitz, Foley's, Teich's, bought in hairdressers from New York. They were fabulous. Ultimately glamour guys. So I can remember the makeup taking about 10 minutes with them being here. Got the hair done, you're dressed, and you're out. Then we had relaxers. Don't care for relaxers. Wear your natural hair if you're African American, whatever, if you're Hispanic, wear your natural hair. I do shows, I only do shows because I get a lot of information. So one of the doctors from either Haiti or Africa says that they thought that lupus was linked to the chemicals in hair. So that's the greatest thing, answering questions, I think I've ever done. The other great thing I've done is that I ran a corporation called DOTY, Designer of the Year. Because we have a lot of designers in the African American community that work is never seen unless they come to one of the high-end stores. Now you're seeing them now because Michelle Obama sort of introduced a couple of them. We've had other stars to introduce them. But in the 60s and the 70s, we could sew. Come on, my brothers and sisters, we could sew. I could make an umbrella and a train. Some of the pictures are there. All of those pictures are done by African American designers. So with the Doty Awards, I had designers that were in high school. El Centro had a design class at one time. And then I took a merchandising class from Prairie View to New York to the Butterick's pattern place. I was trying to find that picture last night. I didn't get to bed until 2 o'clock. You know that's so until 2 o'clock trying to find these pictures. So when we go to, I took 21 students from Prairie View's merchandising school to New York. We get to New York, Butterick Patterns show them how a pattern is made from that vantage point. They come back to, I was on that committee, on that board for a number of years because we have trained designers, we have taught them everything they didn't know from their grandmothers and from their aunties. Then we built schools for them, but they weren't hired in the stores. But we had people like the ladies I have mentioned that would buy from them because it was one of a kind. So the ladies, we have always had a middle-class African-American group, always, always, always. So those women would buy from them. In the books, you're going to see Annual Women's Day at Good Street Baptist Church. And they dressed to the hilt. Fur coats, a lot of the hats they made. I want you to meet a lady named Clara. Clara came on my show about 2 months ago. She had on this great hat. And I kept looking at it. I said, what in the world did you do with the hat? She says, oh, I didn't do anything but put two bands on it. So she had this hat, she decorated it, redesigned it, and put 2 hair bands. It looked great. I'm out of time. What other question do you have? Yes, sir.
What platform is your podcast on? Are you on iTunes and Spotify? What's it called?
Ask him.
Where do we find the podcast?
All right, I get that information to you.
The Good News Network is another one of the ones that we're on. We are, and I tape every Tuesday. Now he will, after we finish this show, he'll go and do his magic wand, and then he'll post it. He has a network of what?
Oh, no. On the E-Blast, 94,000.
94,000. So then we'll share it.
Share
I
it
share
to.
that 7 times. And then with my audience is about, at PAX TV, my audience was 6 million religiously on Saturday morning at 5:30 a.m. I still can't believe that. It was amazing. Yes.
You're on Facebook.
I'm on Facebook.
Podcast is shared on Facebook. I've seen it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's the only place I.
No,
But you could Google
no
it.
followers. Google. Yeah, that's a good one. Google
Yeah.
me. The other thing that I'm really proud of, show you how powerful you can be in this nation. Adidas or Nike or somebody introduced a tennis shoe about 5 years ago. It was called shackle tennis. If you don't think that stirred up the African Americans, they didn't like that. So we got together and shared it. I was on PAX TV at that time. PAX, again, 6 million people at 5:30 a.m. I had a gentleman that owned PAX at that time, was Bud Paxson, a devout Christian that lived down in Key West, Florida, Key West. I never paid him on time. And he would always, I could pick up the phone and call him, and he would say yes or no. A man of very few words, like Mr. Samuel Mark or something like that. But anyway, we got the attention of Adidas because the black race did not like that shackle tennis. You probably never heard of it because it didn't hit the market. But it didn't hit the market because there was a firestorm, a firecracker storm about putting it on the market. So the good thing about these tools that we have is that you can make a difference. Just get your posse together and make it happen. And you see that happening all the time.
Thank you.
I thank you so much.
Ms. Davis, Dr. Esther Davis, thank you so very much for bringing the fashion industry as an African American icon to the Neiman Marcus brand. We really, really appreciate you, appreciate your stories. They were very intriguing. Took me so back to my childhood and just embedded something in me that I, as an individual African American lady, can make a difference.
Right.
And I hope that everybody that was in here know that you guys can make a difference too. So we so appreciate you, and we want to give you these flowers.
It was my pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for the grand thing that you do every day for the entire world. Entire world. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you guys.